Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a deeply analytical and frankly incredibly eye-opening look at the actual anatomy of emotional abuse. We are decoding some truly harrowing real-life text messages from J.R. Truehart's debut memoir, Psychopath in My Bed. And what's really unique about what we're looking at today is that we aren't just tossing around abstract psychological theories. We're literally looking at the digital paper trail of manipulation, seeing exactly how emotional abuse functions in real time.
To start us off, we have to ask a terrifying but totally necessary question. How do you know if you're sleeping next to a psychopath? Or maybe more specifically, how do you even recognize the warning signs when your own partner is systematically manufacturing two completely different realities? Why does this matter to us? Well, because manipulation is this incredibly slow, insidious process. As we unpack this digital paper trail, you're going to see exactly why it's so difficult for victims to spot the trap until it's already sprung.
Let's look at Section 1. The illusion of love, intoxicating beginnings. You know, every trap needs bait, right? And the trauma bond almost always starts with this calculated, deeply intoxicating honeymoon phase that's entirely designed to hook the victim. Just look at these rapid-fire texts. The abuser is making these over-the-top promises about a perfect Valentine's Day, talking about the stars aligning, making massive, lifelong promises about growing old together, and this is very early on. They're just flooding her with affection, mirroring her deepest desires, and essentially building a flawless fairy tale narrative. It's totally overwhelming, and it's supposed to be. And notice the sheer scale of the physical manipulation going on here. We're looking at this extravagant, grand gesture, literally a giant cardboard box covered in huge letters that say, "Good morning, baby, I love you." This isn't just some sweet little note. It's explicitly designed to visually anchor a completely manufactured affection. So when the abuse actually starts, the victim looks at grand, physical things like this and thinks, well, he must love me. Look at what he did for me. It establishes a completely false baseline of devotion.
But that brings us to Section 2, the mask slips, a chaotic duality. Maintaining that flawless facade takes a ton of energy, so eventually the mask slips. And the thing is, the transition usually isn't this slow fade. It's a sudden, shocking drop. This creates severe cognitive dissonance. That's that jarring mental discomfort you get when you're forced to hold two entirely contradictory realities at the same time. If you compare those fairy tale promises of cooking for her every day and growing old together with the harrowing reality of his actual behavior, severe neglect, erratic drug use, blatant theft, it's wild. Your brain simply cannot reconcile the perfect partner from the texts a month ago with the chaotic, destructive person who is currently standing in your room.
Let's see how this duality actually plays out in real life. While Truehart is literally in the shower, her partner steals her car, just completely disregarding her most basic boundaries. And later, she texts him because she found him nodding off on the toilet from drug use. The contrast here is just staggering. The exact same person who promised her a peaceful life is now introducing extreme chaos, danger, and unreliability directly into her home.
And the unacceptable behavior just continuously escalates. In this thread, the ex completely vanishes to a Lakeland motel until 8 a.m. He just ignores her desperate calls while keeping her car out all night, knowing full well she needs it for work the next morning. It's a complete, utter lack of empathy and consideration. The mask hasn't just slipped at this point, it's completely shattered. But what's really fascinating is how the abuser reacts when confronted with this blatant betrayal.
That leads into Section 3, reversing victim and offender, the Darvo defense.
So when confronted with these broken boundaries, the abuser doesn't apologize. No way. Instead, they deploy this devastatingly effective psychological weapon known as DARVO. This stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. It is a very specific, highly predictable manipulation tactic. First, they deny the behavior, then they go on the offensive and attack the person confronting them, and finally, they reverse the roles, claiming that they are actually the ones being victimized. The whole goal is to make the actual victim feel crazy, guilty, and ultimately forced to apologize for even bringing up the abuse in the first place. You can watch this toxic tactic unfold right here in these messages. Truehart confronts him about throwing a tantrum and ruining what was supposed to be a simple, comforting pizza and movie night. But instead of taking any accountability, his immediate response is to play the victim. He says things like, that I'm a piece of shit. Who the fuck cares about that, right? He instantly reverses the roles. He plays the martyr to make her look mean for simply asking for basic human consideration. It is Darvo at its absolute finest. And the manipulation goes even further. Here, she's texting him in tears, expressing how hurt she is that he dropped everything, including her, for drugs, leaving her waiting around for hours. And his response? He completely minimizes her distress. He tells her to stop
and acts like she's the one ruining his night by being upset. It showcases this chilling lack of empathy. By treating her profound pain as a mere annoyance, he's actively trying to make her feel irrational and demanding just for wanting her own partner to be present.
Moving on to Section 4, combating the gaslighting, pushing back.
Now, Truehart refused to just surrender to this fabricated, gaslit reality. A huge part of her journey was fighting fiercely to force him to acknowledge the objective truth of his actions. It is so critical to note here that in these long text blocks, it is the author, not the abuser, sending these highlighted quotes about perception and empathy. She is literally sending him articles on how different perceptions create different realities, desperately trying to combat his relentless gaslighting. She's attempting to use logic, psychology, and literature to ground him in reality, hoping that if he just understands how his own brain works, maybe he'll change.
This specific text message captures that heartbreak so perfectly. None of your issues will resolve on their own without you working on them. You have to understand yourself. It really highlights the incredible, exhausting emotional labor victims will put in to try and fix the person they love, right before they have that awful realization that the abuser's lack of empathy is a feature, not a bug. Which brings us to our final section, number 5, breaking the trauma bond, the path forward.
Ultimately, you just can't logic someone into having empathy. Escaping this kind of insidious manipulation requires breaking those psychological chains, stepping totally out of the cognitive dissonance, and choosing your own reality over their fabricated one. Truehart's powerful memoir maps out this exact nonlinear journey. It involves untangling the devastating betrayal trauma and doing the really agonizing work of finally shattering the trauma bond. And you know, that often feels literally like breaking an addiction to the abuser's initial love bombing phase. It's all about finding that hard-won resilience on the other side of profound deception.
And the amazing thing is, the other side really does exist. Today, J.R. Truehart has successfully reclaimed her autonomy. She lives peacefully, totally removed from the chaotic duality of her past. She uses her experience to advocate for other survivors, and she gets to dedicate her time to the quiet, grounding realities of her garden and her 5 rescue dogs. It's such a beautiful testament to the fact that peace is absolutely possible after psychological warfare. Which leaves us with one final, deeply unsettling question to reflect on. If your own reality was being slowly and methodically rewritten by someone you loved, hidden behind grand gestures and intoxicating promises, would you notice the signs before the illusion trapped you completely? It's a pretty chilling thought. But by understanding tactics like love bombing, cognitive dissonance, and Darvo, we really equip ourselves to see the truth. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and always keep questioning what you see.